The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Ladies and gentlemen, and politicians at Government Center, welcome to the Spindle City Straight Talk show for Monday, March 20th. I'm Patrick.
And I'm CJ. And Chip is currently busy in Government Center fighting for our retirees and our city employees' rights. Because again, the city being the city, they're trying to get whatever they can get from whomever they can get it. And I don't think that's a good thing. So from there, we will continue on.
But the show must go on.
The show must go on, and I hate to say it, but it smells a little rank in here today.
they're working on something out in the hallway.
Yeah, they've got to be, because
I'm smelling it in here now.
Yeah,
they're drilling something out there.
Yeah, it's just smelling like something's burning. Yep. But I checked around here, so we're not on fire yet. So how many people read the Weekend Flush? I know I did. And, you know, on Friday, Pravda came out with a story that we actually broke here on the 16th about recycling at the city yard. And over the weekend, more information came in. And again, these are a lot of allegations. We haven't followed up with them yet, but I have serious questions, and I know that several city councils are going to be asking these same questions. According to our sources at DCM and elsewhere throughout the city, when this recycling company, Tobey, came in, or Atlantic, or whichever one it is, because it's so convoluted with the mass of people that are out there, it's getting a little crazy to kind of keep all the players straight. They brought in some dumpsters and whatnot, and when they did that, they were filled. They actually had items in it, not from Fall River. Now, from also what I've kind of determined a little bit, and I'm still trying to figure this out. And again, another allegation. And you know, Mr. Mayor, you really need to answer these questions for the people. All right? Who's picking up the bulky items? Remember, DCM employees are not supposed to be doing trash anymore. You privatized it. That is a separate budget. So if DCM employees are picking up trash like they did at the Harbor Mall for a private company, who's paying for it?
The city, the taxpayers.
Of course.
Who do you think is going to pay?
Right. And, you know, there are a lot of allegations coming out now. You know, I think, Mr. Mayor, your hiring of your friend, or however you got connected with Tobey and Atlantic, may have been a big mistake, because this isn't going to die.
No, this
isn't going to die. And this isn't looking good on you. You're the administration. Now, accordingly, a city councilor attempted to gain access to the city garage. This is the city council. This is the city councilor.
It's a public building.
It's a, well, no, it's not. Don't try to gain access, because they stop you at the gate.
Really?
Yes.
And so, this is a public building paid for by the taxpayer.
Right. And the citizens no longer have access to it. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they can bring down items to dispose of, and you got to pay for it, either beforehand or afterwards, or however the case may be. But there were allegations of petty cash discrepancies. There's a lot of questions going on in that DCM yard, and DCM employees aren't happy about it. But when that city councilor gained access, some more information started coming out of the woodwork. Now, my problem is this. You want to privatize the trash, you've done it, knock yourself out. You keep saying it's a savings, it's a savings, it's a savings. Nobody can seem to see it. This is supposed to generate money. Yet you hire a company that's bankrupt. Your permit is with the bankrupt company, and you have a contract with another company, which actually happens to be the same company, because the principals of these allegedly two companies are actually on premise. It's all family members. Now we have questions that are popping up, and again, these are questions, these are allegations, Mr. Mayor, of recyclables coming in from out of the city
to be sent to the yard.
To be sent to Rhode Island from Fall River.
At the taxpayer's dollar.
On the taxpayer dime, exactly. Yeah. And we now have allegations, and we were actually told, and I'm doing it on the air now, Mr. Mayor, so you can get Joe Mason to turn around and put the block in place, because we know it's going to come, okay? To track the metal sales. The waste metal that comes in, that's all cash for the city. Where is it? Where is it?
You know, I think that we've just exposed the tip of the iceberg, and from what our sources say, that iceberg is very, very deep.
And very big.
And very big, and there's lots of law enforcement people who are looking at that iceberg, trying to melt it to get to the bottom of the truth. And I'll tell you, when the black Suburbans show up at City Hall and start taking out boxes, I'm not going to be shocked.
You know, that's been the rumor in Fall River for a long time, but every politician knows it's always a rumor, it never happens, and for some reason, every politician in this city, and this is why we have a corrupt system, because every politician in the history of the city has never walked out in handcuffs, they've never been prosecuted, the findings are always a finding of no finding.
You know, maybe we can get former U.S. Attorney Nerona to come over here as a special prosecutor, because he seems to have no problem locking up politicians and finding corruption.
And you know what? I'm not saying that our mayor should be locked up. I'm not saying that this mayor is corrupt. I'm saying that the appearance, the perception, is that.
Yep.
And remember, perceptions become reality to the people. When you start looking at this in the bigger picture, the bigger scope, it gets very cloudy, very murky. And that needs to be cleared up. Because remember, Mr. Mayor, you ran on the platform of getting rid of the fee, of a transparent government, and this government has been anything but transparent. It's easier for me to see through the sludge down at the wastewater treatment plant than it is to see through your government. And if it wasn't for the fact that people don't feel comfortable with some of your decisions, I don't think there would be any information leaking out of Government Center. While we're on DCM, I want to wish a fond farewell to our former DCM Director, former Assistant Director, Adriano Ponceano, who was unceremoniously dismissed on Friday. Now, I contacted Mr. Ponceano over the weekend, and his only comment was, it was a mutual parting of the ways. That's a good way of putting it. But my question is...
Doesn't that usually mean we're not going to fight your unemployment, just get out?
Yeah, that's usually what it means. But my question is, I remember his contract pretty clearly, and I'm going to go back and review it, but there wasn't a termination clause in that contract. Now, if there's no termination clause in the contract, doesn't that mean that he has to have his contract bought out?
Absolutely.
So, because remember, every contract written by the city does not have a termination clause with cause. We've spoken about that how many times on this show, people? Chip brings it up all the time. We talk about it. We beat a dead horse with it. There is never a contract written that has a termination with cause. And they hope that when they terminate somebody, that they become idiots and they forget that their contract doesn't have that and they don't pursue it. So, Mr. Ponceano, if you're watching this, maybe you should reach out to an attorney. I know that two former mayors have private practices at Fall River. I'm sure they would love to take on those.
And I'm sure they understand that contract language very well, because they signed a few.
Obviously a lot better than this administration does, because I'm looking at the contracts and I'm laughing at them. I'm a little scared for tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I don't know which meeting to go to. There's at least 7 that I need to go to. And the biggest one is the Charter Commission.
Now, I know that we had the snowstorm last Tuesday. So everything, because of that snow, was moved forward. But didn't anybody look at the schedule? Now, City Council President Sean Kadim allegedly contacted the city councilors to see when they were available. None of them were available on any other day except for for Tuesday. Okay. And that makes sense because a lot of them will keep their Tuesday clear just in case of a special city council meeting or whatever the case may be. Mike Mioza had his scheduled and published.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. So his is being held simultaneously with the city council meeting. Then you have the Historic Commission meeting simultaneously with that. Then you have the school committee budget meeting at 5 to God knows when.
And the
ordinance committee meeting at 5.
And the ordinance committee has 5 members, and we have a full meeting of the city council thereafter. So we're going to have 9 members of the city council running around at the ordinance committee, and they didn't post a joint meeting. So that could be a possible open meeting law issue coming up after the training.
Well, I'm not even worried about that at this point, I'll tell you now.
But you know me, that's me.
Yeah, well, you're a nudge sometimes. So, I mean, tomorrow, this city is going to be running at ludicrous speed.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Definitely. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And where this is going to go.
Or was this done intentionally to make people not aware of the charter? You know, I lived in Swansea 6 or 7 or 10 years ago when we had the Charter Commission, and they mailed out a copy of the charter to every single house in the city or in the town, and they said it was required to be mailed to every house in the town so that everybody had a copy. And in Fall River, for some reason, we published it, and you had to buy the Fall River Herald News to get it. And yeah, you can go to the city clerk's office in the library and pick up a copy. But that's not getting it to every residential house in the city.
Right.
And there's a question on whether or not they're publishing and providing this to the taxpayers or the voters is legal. But we will do our research, of course.
I mean, yeah, but again, this is a committee or a commission which has done everything humanly possible, except for one, to rip your rights away, strip you of all your rights as a voter, make it more difficult to run for office because we have to make sure only viable candidates can run.
Viable candidates?
Viable candidates. I don't know who appointed these 8 people, the purveyors of viable candidates.
I think a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was a guy who ran for president who spent $0 in the primary with 13 people because they said he wasn't viable.
Right.
But I think his name is now President Donald John Trump. So who's to say they're viable? Who's to say I'm not viable?
I said the same thing.
But 300 signatures to run for mayor? Have they lost their mind?
Well, the thing is...
You only need 150 to run for state rep.
Exactly. And I said this weekend in the Weekend Flush. And again, people, if you're not subscribing, you're really missing out. We're picking up a new subscriber here, there, and everywhere. But you're really missing out because that news comes out and people are like, he's right, he's wrong. Last night after it came out at 6 o'clock. It came out early. Usually comes out at 9 or 8. And last night at 6:15, the Spindle City Straight Talk phone was ringing off the hook. My house phone was ringing off the hook. I was getting text messages up the wazoo. Everyone was screaming about everything under the sun. And if that's what that weekly column generates for feedback, obviously there's something out there. And I tell people, why don't you post this as comments under the column? You know what the common answer was? I'm afraid.
They don't want retaliation.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
That's why they contact us to look into things.
Right, exactly. We get this on the open meeting law complaints. We get this on
Open Records Act
Open
stuff.
Records Act, which obviously this city again, we'll just violate the law because I am the law.
Oh, you sound like that retired judge. What's his name?
So again, we get into this back and forth thing. So, you know, the Herald News Pravda wrote a column on St. Patrick's Day. And I thought that was appropriate because guess what? What else is St. Patrick's Day known for? Kissing that Blarney Stone. Okay? And I'll tell you now, for Commissioner Maioza to say, we didn't flip anything. What we did was improve the structure of the 9-member charter commission chosen by 70% of the electorate in November. Commissioner Maioza, it wasn't 70% of the electorate. If it was 70% of the electorate, it would have been over 28,000 voters.
It would have been a hell of a turnout.
It would have been a hell of a turnout. And guess what? It was no 70%. So again, lies, lies, and more lies. Misrepresentation.
I don't think we got 70% for president, did we?
No. Fall River very rarely gets any more than 16% out for a municipal election. Okay? And granted, some of the items he's placed in this charter are valid. My question, though, is how can you take a charter of hundreds of items and boil them down to 10 and expect it to be decent?
I can answer that.
Okay.
The $40,000 that was spent to hire the Collins Center from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Because they take their template, and that's the same template they use in every other charter that they have done.
And I'll quote them. It will take us too long to pick and choose through your charter and remove what's not there. So we're going to start with a blank slate. Guess what? $40,000 of your taxpayer money to do what I could have done for free. Because that template is the same template that's in the state constitution. All you had to do was download it. I mean, are you serious?
40 grand.
40 grand. And then Mike had the nerve to say, oh, well, I was expecting one, but I at times had 3. You know what? I've watched these charter commission hearings. If you haven't, go to FRG TV, watch them there, go through them line by line. Watch the December meeting where Attorney Assad said, we need to only allow the viable candidates. We have to be able to get people who run for mayor who are viable. Who are you to say who's viable? You know, when one man or a group of men decide who can run for office or how their government's going to run.
Well, there is a woman on there. Don't forget Mrs. Venice.
Okay.
Brenda Venice is on that board too, so it's not just all men.
I understand that. It's a figure, okay?
I understand, but
okay,
I'm being fair.
You're creating fascism. You're creating a dictatorship. You have not taken away any authority of the mayor. You have not reallocated any authority. You've kept everything the way it was, which is what the people wanted changed. The problem with Fall River is they can't get out of their own way. Nobody wants change. Nobody wants to tip the apple cart because, you know what, we've done it this way for 100 years and we're going to do it for another 100 years. Well, guess what? You're going to become a community, a ghost town. Okay? They're going to come into here like they do in some of the Midwest communities that have nobody there living there anymore with vacant buildings and everything falling apart. Or worse. Besides being the butt of jokes, as it is, you'll become a bigger one. This charter does nothing but steal the rights of the people. My opinion, you only need one signature to run for any office, your own. My opinion. Making it 300 or 150 sends the message that unless you can get the signatures, you're not worth it. You are not worth it as a voter. You're not worth it as a person. But let me tell you something. You want 300 signatures? Take your forms. Any elected politician, anyone who's ever run for office will tell you, All you gotta do is go to the bus terminal. Okay? Stand there. They'll sign them as they walk by. They don't care. They don't care.
Nobody reads them.
Nobody reads them.
You'll have
because
people
you know
from
what?
Attleboro.
I will sign anyone's papers to run for office because everybody has that right. Unless you're Attorney Assad or Commissioner Mayoza. Then you only have the right to run for office if you're viable. So, and yes, I did tell Mike this face to face, so I'm not saying this for the first time. Okay? I said this to him face to face. He wasn't happy about it, but I said, you said it, it's on tape. And if I have to bring that to the hearings tomorrow night, I will. And I will play it back. Because I already know someone's going to say, you're lying, and I'm going to play it right back, right from where I'm at. I'll bring my Chromebook and make sure I have it ready to play. But that's the problem. That's the problem. Because you walk around the city, you voters walk around the city saying, he can do no wrong, he's wonderful, he's fabulous. No, don't personalize it. Think with your head, not your heart. The only way Fall River is going to get better, the only way Fall River is going to be able to start to succeed. Because remember, we're so successful that we doubled our unemployment rate in 1 month. Not even a month. The mayor just gave a State of the City speech. It's down to 4%. It's up to 6, 7? I guess we're not doing it right. I guess we're not making it here.
No, we used to make it here when we had jobs and mills.
It just makes me sick. It makes me sick. So tomorrow, everybody, you're going to have to pick and choose where you want to go. Because remember, the same people that go to the Charter Commission meetings also go to the City Council meetings. They'll go to the Ordinance Committee meetings. So they'll sit in ordinance, they'll stay there, they'll go over to the City Council meeting, but those are some of the same people that also go to the school committee meetings. Well, they're not going to be going there either. So because of this cluster scheduling, the people again being denied their right to be present.
To attend and observe.
Okay? You're and you know, they can say, oh, well, it was scheduling, we had to, no, you don't have, the only thing you have to do is take a breath and drop dead. Those are it.
And pay taxes.
Okay? Those are the only thing you have to do in life. No, because if you drop dead, you don't pay the taxes. Your family does. So, that's what you have to do. Everything else that you do is for your convenience, which is obvious when Sean Kadim called around to find out who was going to be available for the city council meeting. Guess what? You're a city councilor. Now, 6 of you didn't show up for a city council meeting. But you all had already let the council president know, I'm assuming, and I hate to assume, that you weren't going to be available that day. And the city council president didn't call that meeting, the mayor did. That's the mayor's fault, nobody else's. But the city council president can say, hey, there's already 6 items going on at the same time. We're going to put that off until the next scheduled city council meeting. But he didn't. The items on this agenda are not crucial. They're not crucial.
And the sad part is, they have one tomorrow night, and then they have another one scheduled next Tuesday.
Right. So, it's not like this was crucial.
It's not like they couldn't have doubled up next Tuesday.
But again,
no, we want to keep people from the Charter Commission.
Maybe if Council President Kadim is watching and say, you know what, we're going to cancel tomorrow's meeting. It's going to be too hectic for everybody. Or maybe Commissioner Mayoza will say, people aren't going to come. He wants everyone to show up. But to me, it looks like if you don't make the concession between you and the City Council President to decide who can have their meeting, then it looks to me that either one or both of you don't want the citizens' input during the hearings. And remember, regardless of what you say you're trying to do, the perception is you scheduled the meeting, the city council scheduled their meeting, other bodies scheduled their meetings, and guess what? Some of those meetings are set meetings. They happen all the time anyhow. So if you schedule it there, when I look at the schedule, sometimes I look at days there is absolutely nothing on the schedule. Why couldn't the Charter Commission schedule their hearings for that day? Oh, maybe Commissioner Mayoza or maybe Commissioner Bartley had something to do that day, and they wanted to make sure they were there. So that's the day it's going to be.
Let me ask you a question. The Charter Commission public input session is tomorrow night. At the
It's a public hearing.
At the Liberal Club.
Correct.
Isn't that a bar?
No, it's also a function facility.
But don't they have an alcoholic beverage license?
Yes, they do.
So we're going to have public meetings now at public
No, they don't.
watering holes, so we can
No, they don't
we can
serve-
really celebrate that charter.
No. Let's be real, Patrick. Let's be real here, okay? I know what you're saying, but they're not serving alcohol during the meeting.
How much are they paying the Liberal Club to use their hall?
Odds are,
Because I'm sure there's city buildings that are.
I will tell you now, as a member of the Liberal Club, most likely they are not charging anything.
Okay.
The Liberal Club is very actively involved in community services, charities. Everything is not about the buck, okay?
Okay.
So odds are that Commissioner Mayoza, who is also a member of the Liberal Club, probably had a club president, Kevin Palmer, who's an absolutely amazing guy. You know, he works probably 36 hours a day on doing issues for the Liberal Club. I mean, he's constantly working on the Liberal Club. I don't know how his wife stands him anymore. He's never home, I don't think.
Maybe that's why they have such a great marriage.
But no. And I can tell you now, the Liberal Club will not be selling alcoholic beverages during the meeting to them. I mean, there is a bar side, and people can go over there, obviously, but because there's also a restaurant over there. So
Is it really?
And the food over there is pretty decent, according to people. So it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. The Boston Globe came out with a very interesting story this morning, or yesterday. After pay raises, state lawmakers off to a slow start. As a matter of fact, they were called three-toed sloths. Okay, nearly 2 months after approving their own substantial salary boosts amid claims they were underpaid and overworked, state lawmakers have sent only 3 minor bills to the governor's desk. That average pay raise is like $105,000, and only the Democrats received it.
Yeah, because nobody else is a committee chairman.
That's right. And then, of course, we had to create co-chairman, so everybody gets a piece of the pie.
Of course, the interesting part of this is the 3 bills that were passed all allowed state workers to contribute unused sick leave to their colleagues. I mean, it wasn't even a major bill.
Right, exactly.
It was, hey, let's take care of so and so. He's part of the old boy network.
Yeah, and this is how this crap just it strikes us down. Strikes a majority of us down, and it really ticks people off. And people don't understand this.
The other interesting part of this was the statement about in mid-February, they appointed a marijuana committee co-chair, co-chaired by Senator Patricia Jehlen, who acknowledged she has very little expertise on the subject. What, there's not a pothead who's a state rep that they could call on? There's got to be a Democratic pothead who's a state rep.
With $105,000, it's not like they can't afford it.
No.
And that's just the pay raise. That doesn't include their base salary. That doesn't include their stipends. That doesn't include their per diem. So again, and this is only for the Democrats, people. So remember, your party is doing the one and only thing they know how to do best. And I'll tell you now, it makes me sick. Truly makes me sick. Why? Because here's what they know how to do best. So remember, when there is a cut in the Chapter 90 money or the 9C money, which pays for all the lovely police and fire and all of that, because already they're saying they have a shortfall in the budget. Just remember that, because their $105,000 a piece is where it went. Hey, thanks for watching. Sorry Chip wasn't here, but he's at a very serious meeting, and I'm sure on Wednesday he'll have that for you. Decide what meeting you're going to tomorrow, and remember, stay angry. Have a great day.